All right, so are you ready to dive into some really cool digital tools for research? We're talking next level stuff that can seriously up your research game.
Yeah, it's amazing how much research has changed even just in the last few years.
Right. It used to be all about trekking to the library and spending hours sifting through dusty old journals.
And don't even get me started on those physical index cards. Remember those?
Oh, I remember them all right. Stacks and stacks of index cards, color coded and cross referenced. It was a system, I'll give it that.
A system that often ended in utter chaos. But in a way, those were the early days of trying to organize and make sense of information.
And thankfully, things have evolved a bit since then. We've got an article here that I think you're really going to like. It's all about the must-have software and platforms for research in the digital age.
I'm all ears. I'm always on the lookout for tools that can make research faster, more efficient, and maybe even a little bit fun, you know?
Exactly. And this article doesn't disappoint, so let's jump right in. Where do you think we should start?
Well, it all begins with finding the right sources, right? I mean, we've all used the classics like PubMed and Google Scholar.
Of course, those are like the old faithfuls of research.
Right. But let's be honest, they can sometimes feel like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Totally. You end up with millions of results, and half of them aren't even relevant to what you're actually looking for. It can be incredibly frustrating and time-consuming.
It's true. You could spend hours going down rabbit holes only to realize you've strayed miles away from your original research question.
Okay, so what's the solution? Because it sounds like we need a serious upgrade.
Well, imagine this. You type in a complex research question, and instead of just spitting out a random assortment of articles, a program actually understands the intent behind your question and then finds the most relevant studies, telling you why they're relevant and how they connect to each other.
Wait, hold on. It does what? That sounds incredible. Like almost too good to be true.
I know, right? But it's real. There are these new AI-powered tools, and they are seriously changing the game. One that I've been really impressed with is called Elicit.
Elicit. Okay, I'm intrigued. How does it work?
So Elicit uses something called natural language processing, or NLP for short, and it's basically a way for computers to understand human language. It goes beyond just keyword matching to actually grasp the meaning and context of what you're asking.
So it's like having a research assistant who can read and analyze thousands of papers at warp speed, but instead of a human, it's this incredibly smart AI doing the heavy lifting.
Exactly. It's like having a superpowered research assistant who never gets tired and never misses a connection. It can be a game changer, especially when you're dealing with a mountain of research.
Okay, that is seriously cool. So it's not just about finding any information anymore. It's about finding the right information, understanding why it matters, and seeing how it all connects. That's next level stuff.
It really is. And it's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the amazing digital tools out there.
I was just thinking, though, what about when you're researching a topic that spans multiple disciplines? That's always felt extra daunting to me because it's like you need expertise in so many different areas just to scratch the surface.
Oh, I totally get that. Interdisciplinary research can feel like trying to navigate a maze blindfolded because each field has its own language, its own methods, and its own key players.
Exactly. And it's so easy to get lost in the jargon and the sheer volume of information. It can feel like you're constantly playing catch up.
Right. And that's where a tool like Iris.ai can be an absolute lifesaver.
Iris.ai. Okay, tell me more about this one because it sounds like exactly what I need in my life.
It's pretty amazing, actually. Let's say you're researching, I don't know, how about the social impact of climate change? So you've got environmental science, sociology, economics, political science, all these different fields that are interconnected but often feel a million miles apart in terms of research.
Oh, tell me about it. I tried to do some research on the impact of smartphones on teenage social development last year, and it was completely overwhelming. I felt like I needed a PhD in 5 different fields just to understand the basic literature.
I can only imagine. But that's exactly where Iris.ai shines. It's like having a multidisciplinary research team at your fingertips. You tell it what you're researching, and it goes out and pulls in relevant articles from each of those fields. And then, get this, it uses AI to identify the key connections and points of intersection between them. So instead of feeling like you're drowning in a sea of jargon and conflicting methodologies.
Which, let's be honest, is a pretty common feeling in interdisciplinary research.
Totally. But Iris.ai swoops in and says, don't worry, I gotcha.
Yeah.
It helps you see the bigger picture, make connections across disciplines, and maybe even discover some unexpected insights that you wouldn't have found if you were just stuck in one silo.
That's amazing. It's like having a team of expert translators helping you navigate the different languages of academic research.
Exactly. And the best part is, you don't need to be a tech whiz to use these tools.
Right.
They're designed to be user-friendly, even for folks who aren't exactly what you'd call tech-savvy.
That's really important because the last thing we need is another barrier to entry in the research world. Okay, so let's say you've used these amazing tools, you've got your stack of articles, maybe even a nicely organized digital stack, and now you need to actually make sense of it all.
Right, because finding the articles is only half the battle, am I right?
Oh, absolutely. Then comes the whole synthesizing the information part, which can feel like trying to solve a giant jigsaw puzzle with 1,000 pieces, all slightly different shades of gray.
And you're trying to do it in the dark.
Exactly. So how do we even begin to bring some order to the chaos? Because I'm all about finding tools and strategies that make research less overwhelming and more, dare I say, enjoyable.
Well, what if I told you there are tools that can help you visualize the connections between research papers, kind of like creating a web of knowledge?
Okay, now we're talking. Because I'm a very visual learner, so anything that can help me see the connections between ideas is a win in my book. What are these magical visualization tools that you speak of?
Well, two that I find super helpful are Research Rabbit and Connected Papers. Remember those old school posters where you'd have strings connecting different events and people, trying to make sense of historical timelines or something? These tools are kind of like that, but for research papers.
Oh, I loved those posters. I used to spend hours making them for school projects. Okay, so walk me through how this works in the digital world. I need all the details.
All right, so let's say you're reading a really interesting paper on, let's say the effectiveness of a specific type of therapy.
Okay, I'm following.
And you're thinking, this is fascinating. I wonder what other research has been done on this. So you could go back to Google Scholar and start typing in keywords, but that can be a bit hit or miss.
And time consuming, especially if you're not quite sure what keywords to use.
Right. So instead, you hop over to Research Rabbit and you plug in the title of that paper and boom, Research Rabbit creates a visual map for you.
Hold on, it does what? I'm picturing a rabbit with a map and a little compass.
Okay, maybe not quite like that. But basically, it creates this visual representation of the research landscape related to that paper. It'll show you who else has cited that paper, what other relevant work those authors have published, and it even highlights the foundational studies that underpin that whole area of research.
So it's like having a roadmap to a specific field of knowledge, but instead of roads, it's research papers, and instead of landmarks, it's key studies and influential authors.
Exactly. It takes all the guesswork out of figuring out where to go next with your research because you can literally see the connections laid out in front of you.
Okay, that's way cooler and less messy than my string posters. And it sounds like Connected Papers takes this visualization idea even further.
It does. Imagine a galaxy of research papers, each one a star, right?
Okay, I'm imagining it.
Connected Papers creates a map of this galaxy, showing you not just individual stars, but also the constellations, those clusters of research that are interconnected and influence each other. You can see which papers are the hubs of the network, the ones with the most citations and influence, and you can also identify less explored areas that might warrant further investigation.
Wow, that's such a powerful visual. It's like having X-ray vision into the world of academic research. Are there any other tools in this mapping the research universe category that we should have on our radar?
Definitely. If you're doing a systematic review, which is basically a super thorough, comprehensive analysis of all the existing research on a very specific question.
Okay, I've heard of those. They sound intense.
They can be. Right. But they're super valuable because they provide such a rigorous and detailed overview of a particular research area.
Right. You're not just skimming the surface, you're diving deep into the literature.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate research deep dive.
Exactly. And if you're doing this kind of deep dive, Litmaps is your new best friend.
Litmaps, got it. Another one for the toolbox.
Add it to the list. Imagine having to sift through hundreds of articles manually to try to create a comprehensive overview of a field. Litmaps takes on that Herculean task for you. It creates a visual map of all the relevant papers, highlights key themes, and even identifies potential gaps in the research.
That sounds like a godsend for anyone tackling those mammoth research projects. It's like having a super efficient research assistant who not only organizes your entire library, but also tells you what's missing and where to look next.
Exactly. It's like having a personal research librarian who's available 24/7 and never gets tired of answering your questions.
Okay, I'm convinced.
Okay.
Sign me up for Lit Maps. Are there any other mapping tools we should touch on before we move on?
Yeah, there's one more I wanted to mention. It's called VO's Viewer, and it's fantastic for getting a bird's eye view of a whole research area.
Oh, I love a good bird's eye view. Tell me more.
It's like Google Earth, but for research. You can zoom in and out of different areas of study, see which topics are hot, who the key players are, and how the field has evolved over time.
So you can literally see the landscape of a research area and how it's changed over the years. It's like having a time machine for research. This is blowing my mind.
I know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And these visualization tools aren't just for showing off, although they do look pretty impressive.
Oh, for sure. I'd be tempted to frame these maps and hang them on my wall.
I mean, why not? They're like works of art. But they also serve a really important purpose. They help you see patterns and connections that you might miss if you were just looking at a list of papers.
Totally. Because our brains are wired for visual information. It's much easier to make sense of complex relationships when we can actually see them laid out in front of us.
Exactly. And that can spark new ideas, help you identify gaps in the research, and even inspire new research questions. So don't underestimate the power of visualization.
Noted. I'm adding explore visualization tools to my to-do list as we speak. But let's be honest, all this amazing research is useless if you can't get those words onto the page. And I don't know about you, but sometimes the actual writing process feels like the most daunting part. Yes. It's like my brain is filled with all these fascinating ideas and connections, but then I sit down to write, and it all just vanishes.
The blank page syndrome gets us all.
It's the worst. But you know what's even worse? Staring at a half-written paper that's riddled with grammatical errors and sentences that are so convoluted I can barely understand them myself.
Oh, I've been there, I swear. Sometimes I feel like I'm writing in a foreign language, even though English is my native tongue.
Right. It's like academic writing has its own special language that only PhDs are privy to. But thankfully, just like those fancy new tools that help us navigate the research landscape, there are now AI-powered writing assistants that can make the writing process itself smoother and, frankly, less painful. Tell me more. I need all the help I can get.
You and me both. The article mentioned Grammarly, which I'm guessing you've at least heard of.
Oh, yeah. I use Grammarly for catching those pesky typos and making sure my email sounds semi-professional.
Right, so Grammarly is great for the basics, but for academic writing, there's this really cool tool called Paperpal. Think of it like Grammarly's super smart academic sibling. It goes beyond just grammar and spelling to look at clarity, conciseness, and even whether you're using the appropriate tone and style for an academic paper.
Wait, hold on. Tone and style. Like, it can tell if I'm being too casual or too formal.
Exactly. It's like having a writing coach who's read every style guide and knows exactly how to make your argument sing. It can tell you things like, hey, this sentence is a bit clunky, try rephrasing it like this, or, in academic writing, it's generally frowned upon to use emojis, no matter how much you love that thinking face.
Okay, that's amazing and hilarious. It sounds like Paperpal could save me from some serious embarrassment.
It's a lifesaver, trust me. And if you're ever struggling to paraphrase or reword something in a clear, concise way, because plagiarism is a big no-no, there's another great tool called Quillbot.
Quillbot. I'm writing this down. Okay, tell me everything.
All right, so imagine this. You found the perfect quote or idea in a research paper, but you can't just copy and paste it into your own work.
Right, you've got to make it your own, but sometimes it feels like my brain is fresh out of original thoughts.
I totally get it. So you highlight that section of text and you pop it into Quillbot, and it's like having a thesaurus that understands the nuances of language and can suggest different ways to express the same idea without losing its meaning.
Ooh, that's super helpful. Sometimes I get stuck in a phrasing rut and just need a fresh perspective to get those creative juices flowing again. It sounds like Quillbot would be perfect for that. What about this Writeful I keep hearing about?
Oh yeah, Writeful. That one's specifically designed for academic writing, which, as we've established, can be a minefield of its own.
Tell me about it. Between the jargon, the passive voice, and the constant fear of accidentally plagiarizing someone, it's a wonder any of us actually make it to graduation.
I know, right? But Writeful is here to help. It's like having a little grammar police officer on your shoulder, but a nice one who's actually there to support you. Helps you find the right words, checks your grammar in context, and even helps non-native English speakers navigate the often confusing world of scholarly language.
Oh, that's so important. Academic writing is already challenging enough, and for non-native English speakers, it can feel like an even steeper climb.
Absolutely. And tools like Writeful can really help to level the playing field and make academic writing more accessible to everyone.
Okay, so we found the research, mapped out the connections, tackled the writing, but we can't forget about everyone's favorite part, citations.
Oh no, not the citations. They both laugh.
I swear, formatting bibliographies used to take up half my life. I have nightmares about commas in the wrong place and journal titles italicized in the wrong font. It was a dark
It
time.
was a nightmare. I used to spend hours painstakingly copying and pasting citations from websites, hoping I wouldn't accidentally introduce some weird formatting error that would throw off my entire bibliography.
Ugh, don't even remind me. But thankfully, those days are long gone, right?
Gone like your old index cards.
Yeah.
We've got Zotero, Mendeley, EndNote. These are like personal librarians who live inside your computer, silently judging your every move, but ultimately making your life a million times easier.
It's true. I resisted using citation management software for so long because I thought it would be too complicated or time-consuming to learn a whole new system. But honestly, once I finally took the plunge, it was like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders.
It's a total game changer. And these tools aren't just for organizing your citations. They actually format your bibliographies for you. Tell it what style you need. APA, MLA, Chicago, whatever, and it just does it.
It's honestly magical. No more citation-induced meltdowns the night before a deadline. Sign me up.
Right. And they keep getting smarter and more integrated, too. A lot of them can even pull the citation information directly from a website or a PDF, so you don't have to type it in manually. Talk about a time saver.
Okay, that's just next level amazing. Is there anything these tools can't do? I mean, besides make me a cup of coffee while I'm writing, but hey, a researcher can dream.
Ah, right. Maybe they'll add that feature in the next update.
One can only hope. Okay, so we've covered finding research, organizing it, visualizing the connections, writing the actual paper, and even taming the citation beast. Is there anything we missed?
Well, there's one more tool I wanted to mention. It's called Semantic Scholar. And it's not exactly a citation management tool, but it kind of takes citation analysis to a whole new level.
Ooh, okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more. Because honestly, I'm always up for anything that can give me an edge in the research game.
It's like this. Imagine you're looking at a list of citations, and you're trying to figure out which papers are the most influential, the ones that have really made a splash in the field, right?
Right, because not all citations are created equal. Some papers get cited a lot because they're groundbreaking and influential, and others, well, maybe not so much.
Exactly. So Semantic Scholar uses AI to go beyond just counting citations. It looks at how and where a paper is being cited, what kind of impact it's having on the field. It can even suggest related works that you might have missed, papers that are maybe less cited but still highly relevant to your research.
So it's like having a research assistant who not only organizes your books, but also tells you which ones are the most important and why.
Exactly. It's about understanding the context and impact of the research, not just creating a long list of citations to make your paper look more impressive.
Okay, that's next level stuff. I'm definitely adding Semantic Scholar to my list of tools to check out. This whole conversation has been mind-blowing. I had no idea there were so many incredible digital tools out there that could transform the research process from start to finish. It's like having a whole team of research assistants, but it all fits in your laptop.
It really is remarkable how far we've come. And the best part is, you don't have to become an expert in every single tool out there. The key is to find the ones that best fit your research style and the specific project you're working on.
That's really empowering. It's not about being overwhelmed by options. It's about choosing the right tool for the job. It's like having a personalized toolkit for your research journey.
Exactly. And as with any toolkit, it's good to have a mix of tools for different tasks. Maybe you're really into visualization, or maybe you need extra help with the writing process. It's all about finding what works best for you.
Totally. It's about working smarter, not harder. And who knows, as you become more comfortable with these digital tools, you might even discover new ways to use them, new connections and possibilities that you hadn't even imagined before.
Exactly. It's all about embracing experimentation and seeing where these tools take you. Because the more we can automate those tedious and time-consuming tasks, the more time and energy we have to focus on the truly creative and exciting aspects of research, asking big questions, making new discoveries, and sharing our insights with the world.
So well said. And that's a perfect note to end on. It's been amazing chatting with you today. I've learned so much about how these digital tools can help us become more efficient, more creative, and maybe even a little bit more joyful in our research endeavors.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you too. And remember, the most important tool in your research arsenal is your own curiosity. Never stop asking questions, exploring new ideas, and pushing the boundaries of what we know. That's what research is all about.
Couldn't agree more. Until next time, everyone, keep those research engines running.